Welcome to another deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's to cut through the noise, make sense of what's really happening in the crypto market,
Hmm.
and we're doing that using a specific stack of sources, news articles, all published just yesterday, June 11th, 2025.
Right. It gives you this really focused snapshot. You see everything from, the big institutional moves down to individual speculation.
And regulatory stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial. It's all happening at once.
So the goal is pretty straightforward. Help you, the listener, get a real handle on these key insights, figure out why they matter, and, well, feel genuinely informed about this moment in crypto.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so first up, this big theme that just pops right out, institutions. We've
Hmm.
got a source pointing straight at BlackRock and Fidelity ETFs. What's the main story there today?
Well, what's really interesting, I think, is the source specifically says BlackRock and Fidelity are leading a surge in Bitcoin inflows.
Oh, leading, not just participating.
Exactly. It's not just, institutions are interested. It's these specific, huge players, their products, driving a lot of the new money into Bitcoin right now.
Okay, that tells you something about maybe the maturity of those products.
Yeah, and maybe the current phase of adoption.
Right. And speaking of products, here's where it gets potentially really interesting. Another source brings up other ETFs.
Ah, the altcoin ETF possibility.
Yes. It mentions Bloomberg ETF analysts suggesting the SEC might actually start approving altcoin-based ETFs soon.
Which, if you connect the dots, that suggests the institutional lens might be widening,
Mm.
beyond just Bitcoin, maybe even beyond Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
And the source highlights Solana specifically. Gets it, what, a 90% chance?
90%. As early as next month, according to these
Ah.
analysts, which is, well, pretty bullish.
It raises that big question, doesn't it?
Hmm.
If major altcoins get ETFs, how does that change the market dynamics? Could that feed into this altcoin summer narrative people talk about?
Exactly. It points to where that structured money could go next. Big implications beyond just Bitcoin.
But, while the institutions are moving.
The regulators are watching. Always.
Precisely.
So, shifting gears a bit, these sources also zoom in on the regulatory side. There's news about a central bank looking very closely at stablecoins.
Yeah, that's the Bank of Korea. The source says the governor is planning meetings, specifically with bank chiefs, about stablecoin policy.
And what's the worry?
Control, basically.
Yeah.
The source mentions concern about the potential impact on financial system control. They're asking, if these digital one stablecoins take off, how do we maintain oversight, stability?
And there's a specific detail in there too, right? About who might issue them.
Yes, that a new law might allow fintech firms, not just the traditional banks, to issue these ones stablecoins.
Ah, okay. So that potentially opens the door wider.
Right, and that seems to be part of the concern. It highlights this tension you see globally, balancing innovation, which fintech often drives, with the traditional levers of regulatory control and financial stability.
So the Bank of Korea's worry about system control, it's quite fundamental.
Absolutely, they see stablecoins as potentially altering their grip on monetary flow. It's definitely a space to watch for anyone tracking how crypto integrates or clashes with traditional finance.
It makes total sense. Okay, so institutions pushing in, potential new ETFs, central banks grappling with control. What about actual usage, adoption?
Yeah, there's some concrete examples in the sources too.
Like, one source mentions a video platform doing something interesting.
Right, Rumble, the video
Um.
platform, it's integrating Bitcoin Lightning for creator payments.
Okay, explain that a bit. Why Lightning?
Well, the source frames it as a step towards, mainstream crypto adoption. Lightning Network sits on top of Bitcoin, designed for faster, cheaper payments. So Rumble is using it for a specific function, paying creators. It's not
Yeah.
just theory, it's a practical application.
Gotcha. Faster, maybe cheaper payments for creators. That's tangible.
Exactly. And then another source looks at ecosystem development, specifically Ripple's XRPL.
Right, their roadmap. What's the news there?
The source says their EVM-compatible sidechain is launching.
EVM compatible, that means.
Basically, it makes it easier for developers and apps built for Ethereum, which is the biggest smart contract platform, to also work on Ripple's ledger, the XRPL.
Ah, building a bridge, essentially.
Pretty much. The source calls it the most effective tool to bring users and projects into the XRP ecosystem. It shows these specific blockchains are really investing in technical upgrades to attract more activity and broaden their use cases.
So real-world payments on one side, building technical bridges on the other, different kinds of growth happening.
Absolutely.
All right, finally, let's dive into the maybe more wild side, the altcoin speculation.
Headline grabbers.
Yeah. We have a couple of sources touching on specific tokens, specific strategies.
Hmm.
One mentions a whale making a pretty big move.
Yeah, this one's quite specific. It reports a well-known Salaxy whale, Salaxy being another token, presumably has apparently sold their entire stack to
Wow.
go all in on something called the Neo Pepe Coin presale.
Neo Pepe coin. Okay. Sounds memey.
Highly likely, and obviously extremely speculative, high risk. But it illustrates that other side of the market, doesn't it? Big bets on brand new, maybe meme-inspired tokens, hoping for those crazy returns.
A completely different world from BlackRock ETFs.
Absolutely, a world away, but happening on the same day, part of the same broader crypto ecosystem.
And then there's another source pointing to a specific price target for a different token.
Right, Arctic Pablo. It suggests it's heading to 0 bear 08.
It's very specific.
Very. And positions it as a best crypto to invest, contrasting it with, established names like Ethereum and Polkadot.
Which just makes you think, how do people navigate all this, all these claims?
Exactly. The source frames it within that search for the best crypto to invest in 2025. It really reflects that constant hunt for the next big thing, often driven by, well, marketing and hype.
Comparing it to Ethereum and Polkadot really highlights the risk difference, doesn't it?
For sure. Established giant versus brand new microcap. It's a snapshot of the kind of retail narratives out there.
So putting it all together then, you've got this whale making a massive bet on a pre-sale, this specific call out for Arctic Pablo, alongside the institutional money, the potential Solana ETF. It's quite a mix.
It really is. It paints this picture of a market firing on all cylinders, you could say.
Yeah.
You've got this structured, sort of regulated growth happening, and right alongside it, this really high stakes, almost gambling-like speculative energy, both happening simultaneously.
Wow. Yeah, looking back, that really was a packed snapshot from just one day.
Mhm.
You've got BlackRock and Fidelity leading inflows. The potential for altcoin ETFs like Solana bubbling up.
Central banks, like Korea's, wrestling with stablecoin control.
Real adoption, like Rumble using Lightning payments.
Ecosystems expanding, like XRPL, building that EVM bridge.
And then, yeah, the whole altcoin speculation scene, the whale moves, the next big thing, calls.
Correct. Seeing all these pieces from just one day's reporting really underscores how multifaceted crypto is right now.
Yeah.
Institutional plays, regulatory pressures, tech developments, pure speculation, it's all in the mix.
It really does highlight how fast things move and how interconnected it all is, even when the different parts feel totally separate.
Which I think leaves you with an interesting question to consider.
Go on.
How do developments in one area, like, say, the Bank of Korea's policy on stablecoins, how might that ripple out and actually influence something seemingly unrelated, like maybe the risk appetite in the altcoin market? Or even shift how institutions think about their next strategic move?
That's a really good question. How do these different streams influence each other? Something to definitely chew on. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the sources. We really hope this gave you some valuable perspectives straight from the news of the day.